back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Cub Swanson, who fights at this weekend's UFC Fresno main event versus Brian Ortega, has came out and said ahead of his that Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey were pampered and had easier paths than fighters like me. And he's got a point, but at the same time, you can say it's for good reason. Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey were crossover stars, and it's because of their personality. And the UFC, as a fight promotion, they can't take every single fighter. And, you know, this is all my opinion, of course, but they can't take every single fighter. Cub Swanson, Max Holloway, Tyron Woodley, Robert Whittaker. They can't take every single fighter and make them a Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey level of a star. You can be a Demetrius Johnson and be a reigning champion. Some of these people coming out and speaking out aren't even on the level of a Demetrius Johnson or a Tyron Woodley as far as, you know, their championship and their experience in the UFC, and they're still feeling this way. I mean, you've got champions having this same complaint. But what I think a lot of these fighters are missing is that even though you might feel like the UFC handpicked some of these people's fighters, they seen something in these fighters that made them want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Now, some fighters come out and say, you know, I'm just respectful. I don't want to be a trash talker, or, you know what I'm saying? It takes a mix of things to be a huge star. So when the UFC might see that potential, or if you have that potential to be a crossover star, of course they're going to try and line you up to become that star. But let's say you're a Max Holloway or a Robert Whittaker or a Cub Swanson, and you're not very talkative as far as when the media comes. You're not much of a trash talker. You're very respectful. You know what I'm saying? As you don't sell fights that way. Or there's some people like a Chael Sonnen who can sell fights that way, but then they don't have the skills of a Max Holloway or a Robert Whittaker, you know what I'm saying, to get the wins. So there's two ways you can really become a champion or a star in this business. Some guys have to take the long road, which is what Cub Swanson or the Robert Whittakers and the Max Holloways and the Tony Fergusons have done. The UFC didn't handpick them. The UFC didn't make them a star, but they are becoming a star. What they have to do, though, they had to literally clear out the division on their way. They had to beat fucking 5 guys in the top 10. And that's why what he says is kind of true. Did Conor McGregor have to beat 5 guys in the top 10 to get his championship fight? Did Cody Garbrandt have to clear out the top 5 to get a title shot? No. So that's what he means when he says they were pampered and had easier paths. But it's because the UFC seen something in them and wanted, you know, that star power. Now, and it's not all just trash talk. It's not all just coming out shock value, talking trash, calling somebody an essay or a filthy animal. You also have to have the skills to pay the bills. Because if they do put you in a big fight, let's say you're a Conor McGregor and you've talked all this trash and now you're going against Jose Aldo. Well, you've got to be able to win that fight, or Conor McGregor doesn't come. So, of course, Conor McGregor, after Jose Aldo, might get another huge opportunity because he delivered. There's some people, like let's say Colby Covington fought Tyron Woodley today, and people would say, oh, he had an easier path. He didn't have to fight 5 separate guys in the top 10. He had an easier path. You could always say that. Well, if he loses the fight to Tyron Woodley, he doesn't become a big pay-per-view draw. I mean, he can still talk trash and still have attention on him, but he doesn't become the champion. He doesn't get those pay-per-view points and gets another title fight. So it's a mix. You have to not only be able to be entertaining for the UFC. If you want to become somebody that the UFC pushes before you're a star, Max Holloway, Tyron Woodley, Tony Ferguson, Robert Whittaker, they're probably going to start getting a push because you can legitimately say that they've earned it. And yes, they had to go through the fire for it. Now, Tyron Woodley, not so much. But when you talk about Robert Whittaker, when you talk about Tony Ferguson and Max Holloway, these 3 fighters in particular who had to fight the best of the best and then win an interim title and then become champion, that's what it's going to take if you don't have all the combined requisites to be a Conor McGregor or a Ronda Rousey. You've got to have the talk, and you've got to have the walk to literally be propelled. And if the UFC sees that, then they might get behind you early. Darren Till, he's a guy that's looking like he can talk the talk and walk the walk. Sean O'Malley, he's a guy that's looking like he can talk the talk and walk the walk. Are they the best right now in the world? Sean O'Malley's only fucking 22 years old, 23 years old. No, he can't probably beat TJ Dillashaw today, but he has shown a skill set that the UFC believes, okay, if he can develop, you know, we can try and develop this guy. He can be a crossover star. He can be a huge star. You're talking about Darren Till. He can be a huge star, a crossover star. Not only does he talk the talk, but he's walk the walk. Some of these guys who do walk the walk, the Max Holloway, the Tony Ferguson, the Cub Swanson, they don't necessarily talk the talk. So that's when some of these guys try and force it, and it doesn't always sound right because you're forcing it. So I mean, when the UFC sees a Ronda Rousey or a Conor McGregor or a Darren Till early, of course they're gonna try and line them up for success, but it comes with the fucking territory. This is the entertainment industry. With that being said, Cub Swanson and these other fighters do have a point. It's true, but it's because the UFC sees something in these other fighters that they might not see in another fighter. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the hard, honest truth. Half of the people that complain either don't talk the talk well, or they don't walk the walk necessarily. If you know what I'm saying? If Cub Swanson, he's a storied UFC veteran who has fought some of the best, and what happens is sometimes these guys, even if you get a tough shot, you know what do you want the UFC to do? Put you on ESPN, put you on a magazine, and then whenever the cameras turn on, it's like, yeah, I'm just here to defend my belt. I really just want to be the best. I'm not too interested in who I fight. I don't really care. And then it's like, okay, well, whenever they give Conor McGregor that opportunity, whenever they pamper Conor McGregor, you know, quote unquote pamper, and they give him that opportunity, he takes the fucking mic and says, I'm going to whoop his ass. I'm the best to do it. I really believe I'm going to knock this guy out in the third round, which really helped Conor. Those fucking predictions, those were on point. Or you get a Darren Till. Hey, look, Darren Till's coming up. Or a Sean O'Malley. When you give them that opportunity, they're going to seize the moment, seize it and own it. Okay, wait, I'm not going into Eminem lyrics this time, but you get the fucking point, man. It is what it is. Hopefully I've made myself clear. Yes, the UFC, Cub Swanson and all these other fighters that have made this point, yes, it's true, but they don't do it. It's not just a random game. They see something in these fighters, you know, and they give them an opportunity. It's up to the fighter to capitalize on it. And if you don't, I mean, we've also got to be honest. A lot of these fighters see the money that Nate Diaz, even in this interview with Cub Swanson, he says, you know, I go in training and my boxing coach makes more money than me just off of his percentage of the boxers he trains. I see guys like Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor who barely fight and they make millions. And so that's why these fighters speak out, because yes, it's true. They are some of the, to me personally, MMA fighters are the hardest training. They are worth more than everybody else. I mean, boxers, NBA, NFL, all of these people, they're more established. They've been around longer. That's why they make more money. But no, you can't give me none of them train harder than a fucking MMA fighter. You just can't give me that. And this is coming from just a fan who's just dissecting the sports. I mean, what would you rather do? Would you rather go do passing drills and fucking kicking, you know, what the fuck ever, kicking drills, passing drills, dunking, shooting? Would you rather just, you know, only train your hands, or would you rather get slammed on the mat, kicked in your fucking legs, kicked in your head, you know, punched in your face? MMA fighters go through the most, so that's why they fucking speak out and they feel like this. I feel like I should be getting paid as much as these other people, and now people are. Conor McGregor's, Nate Diaz's, the money's starting to come in, and so they're starting to wonder, how do I get some of that? I know I deserve it, but how do I get to it? Well, these guys, they feel like they're pampered, so they speak out. So with that being said, I've fucking said enough on this video, man. It is what it is. Let the full-time family know what the fuck you tell me in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G.